welcome to another episode of the Connect Cape Fear podcast, a show where locals, travelers, and newcomers from all over find connection and community in this great place that we call home. We have a special today. We're going to do a two-part podcast. Episode number 1 is with Tricia Bursell of Blue Coast Realty, but also check into episode number 2, which is with his amazing wife, Tricia, where we'll talk a little bit more about community. Today, we're going to focus heavily on real estate and the state of real estate in Wilmington. But before we get there, Brian, welcome to the pink couch on Princess Street.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Connect Cape Fear podcast.
Great to be here.
We like to start with, how'd you get here? How long have you been in Wilmington for?
So we've been in Wilmington about 5 years,
Okay.
and we're transplant from New England, specifically in Rhode Island. So we had Wilmington mapped out for a long time. We get tired of long winters and short summers, and so Wilmington was on our radar. We've sort of moved just before the pandemic, and I owned a lot of real estate. I've been in real estate for over 20 years, owned a lot of properties in New England. So the move to come here was pretty monumental for us. It wasn't just sell a home and move. Mm-hmm. It was sell a home, start a few businesses, sell a few properties, and then along the way, we bought properties here to sort of supplement our income. So we've been here. Tricia and I have been together in real estate now together. And we've sort of built a little bit of a business on the real estate side. I also flip homes, and so there's probably more information than what you asked. But I also renovate homes, and I usually do 2 a year. And I've been doing that for over 20 years. I'm over 30 to 40 35-ish properties that we've flipped over the years.
Wow.
And I think that gives us a unique, as far as real estate goes, it gives us a unique perspective because I'm on the buy side and I'm also a seller usually 2 times a year, sometimes 1 time. But I'm a buyer and a seller on a pretty active basis. And that puts real estate, through the lens working with clients from a different perspective in that I'm looking at a house very closely on the mechanics. I'm looking at, the big things that have to do with the house. Whereas I think, other realtors are looking at the colors and the kitchen and things like that. I'm more interested about the structure of the house. And so being on the buyer side, a different, perspective on that end, and on the seller side, I go through the same stresses that they go through having to, sell a home. So answer your question, going on 5 years, really happy to be here. And, really enjoying, we think Wilmington's a great spot, as a lot of people, I think, that have been here for a while, tend to think the same.
Totally. I have a working theory. I don't know if it's a theory more as it's a wish that, Wilmington was an amazing secret, well-kept secret, kind of a locals only place for a long time.
Right.
And then somewhere around the pandemic, secret got out and people are moving here in droves. I got here in 2019. Sounds like you got here around the same time.
Yep.
So I'm thinking there's a different class of Wilmingtonians. There's the blue bloods that have been here for forever.
Right.
Then there's the pre-pandemic people, and then there's the post-pandemic people. They're the newbies, not so much us anymore.
Right.
Because we made it in before COVID.
Right. Exactly.
Well, you covered a lot of ground there on real estate. Before we really kind of start to dive into the nuts and bolts of that, what was it about Wilmington that interested you and Trish? Was it the real estate opportunity? Was it, just the beautiful geography and everything that this town has to offer? Is a combination of both? What was your decision in wanting to come to Wilmington specifically?
Well, there are a few things that drove it. We wanted a place that had longer summers. Coming from New England, winters are very long and summers are short. So the thing we love about Wilmington is that that you've got a beautiful spring, a longer summer, and absolutely probably my favorite time of year is the fall.
Yeah, don't say too much. October, November is the best time of year here, but it's out of season, and I think we kind of want to keep it that way.
Yeah, and there's a lot of places that are still sort of not on a lot of people's radar. So, for example, Bald Head Island is a sort of a well-kept secret, and to visit that Bald Head Island sort of off seasons, it's a gift. We're we're super grateful for that. So, Wilmington was on our radar primarily for seasons, also location. It's up and coming, so it was easy to start a real estate business here. It was easy to look at homes that you could still get in at a very good price point. There's a lot of beautiful homes. We've done some great renovations on some homes downtown where we go in and we go fully permitted. There are a lot of builders out there that they sort of cut corners, and I'm not going to say anything negative, but there's a lot of opportunity here. And then I think, the location being that we're, 2 hours away from Raleigh, we're a couple hours away from, an hour away from Myrtle Beach, but we can get to Charleston in a couple hours. So locationally, it's great. And then the last thing is, I've watched closely the airport, and I don't think that gets enough press, and maybe for a good or bad reason, because if the secret gets out, the airport's expanded, and there are some newer flights, and I'm a big fan of Velo Airlines. I know
we've plugged a Velo on here many, many times. Go ahead. Sorry.
And a Velo, I tell people that are moving here, you one of the things when you're looking to relocate is think about if you're coming from somewhere from distance, you want to find a place that has an airport that's manageable. Wilmington's airport is you can come in hot. You can come in 15, 20 minutes before a flight because most of us live 15, 20 minutes from the airport. There's easy to find parking. There are never super long lines, and there's discount airlines. Velo being one of the discount airlines where we fly back to New Haven, Connecticut for $50 each way. So there are multiple reasons on top of the obvious things like the beaches and the fact that the downtown area has a robust there's great restaurants, there's the Riverwalk, there's a lot of things to do, and then the last thing is just outdoor activities. We went from being in New England for several months a year. We're outside a lot here, and I think that's a big surprise to the folks that relocate here.
You're right. You're totally right about our airport. I live in the Wrightsboro neighborhood, so I'm maybe a 5-minute drive if I hit the light at Carr and Castle Hayne or at North 23rd, less if not. So I travel probably 2 weeks out of the month for work, and I have it timed down where, like, if I'm boarding, I will leave 45 minutes before my boarding time. I'll be there, I'll be parked, I'll be through security, and I'll have a coffee in my hand from the Port City Java right there with 15 minutes left to board. It's exceptional. Having come from Atlanta when we moved here, it was a 3-hour journey just to get from my house to the airport, through security, on the train, to the gate, with some kind of comfort in hand. Right. So the fact I can do it in 30 minutes is amazing. And you can get direct to a lot of places. And Velo is awesome. I flew my whole family to Fort Lauderdale for like under $400 with bags and everything. So super, super reasonable airline. Well, let's talk a little bit about the state of real estate here.
Sure.
Because we have a ton of people moving here. We have a lot of people coming from the Northeast that are retiring down here, getting a lot of halfbacks. We're getting a lot of like remote workers who take advantage of all that stuff that you just talked about. Beautiful geography, incredible downtown area, lots and lots to do. Great place to raise a family. But we don't have a lot of houses that are available. There's new construction that's going up, but interest rates are higher. With all these people moving here, housing costs are up. Is Wilmington, in your professional opinion, on a bubble, or are we in what's the state of our real estate? I guess I might ask here.
I'd say that there are two things that are happening. One is I think values are sort of stable, and I think today, more than say in the last 2 years, there's more choices for buyers. So if you're looking to relocate or you're looking to buy a home, there isn't the inventory that there was, say, pre-COVID, but we're starting to see more choices for buyers and different price points. So I would say a year or two ago, it was really difficult. 2 years ago, it was really difficult if you were under, say, $350. You're really competing. You're coming in with a full price offer, skipping inspections, things like that. So we've stabilized those 320, those 350 in that band, first time home buyer band. There are choices now, and you're not having to skip inspections. You're not having to come in $10,000 over list price. That's not to say on the seller side that homes are priced lower. Homes that are priced appropriately in this market are selling. So it's still a good time to sell. And, I would challenge I feel like there's a lot of negative publicity out there about interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
Interest rates are on the higher side. They're higher than the 3.5% that used to be out there a couple of years ago. But they're right now holding, at the time we're doing this, in end of July, they're holding in the sixes, which doesn't sound terrific, but they're on their way down.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different programs out there. So, for example, because there's a little more inventory, sellers are willing to help out a little bit on, say, a rate buy down. So you can actually buy the rate down, work with the seller to buy a rate down. So if you're in the sixes, you can be in the fives. Again, it's not 3.5%, but usually a 5 sounds, a little more palatable than the sixes. In other price bands, we work with buyers across, a wide spectrum of price ranges. As you get to the mid price ranges and the higher price ranges, I'm still seeing a few more options. Again, it's not, what it was in the pandemic where you had to just, write a full price offer.
Right.
You can negotiate a little bit. So we're holding steady and we're stable, but I don't think we're declining by any stretch.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. One, as a person who owns property here, but two, also, accessibility for people that want to come and move here, because it is a great place.
And I touched on something. The other part is intangible. There's an intangible here. And what I mean by that, there's value in being really close to the beaches.
Right.
There's value to being, some of our clients want to be close to downtown. And so there's a little bit of a value built in that's helping to keep the prices up.
Yeah.
Because, certain homes have, close proximity to different things.
Location,
we have beautiful parks here too that
Yeah.
don't get mentioned often. And, if you're close to a park, there's value in that's helped keeping the prices stable.
Yeah. I think everybody that we've talked to on this show in particular has highlighted one of those little unique aspects that might not necessarily get a ton of publicity or a ton of attention. We have a great arts district. We talked about that on some previous episodes. So if you're into theater, if you're into, whatever the arts has to offer, we have awesome arts district here. We've got great parks. We've got beaches. We've got the Riverwalk. We've got downtown. Literally, there's something for just about everybody.
Absolutely.
In the Wilmington community. Well, that's really great to know. So I want to talk a little bit too about, you said you do remodels, taking them down, to studs. We have a project that my wife and I have been working on for a couple years, and we get a lot of joy and a lot of fulfillment with that. But a lot of people that I talk to in the community, want to make sure that, we're keeping the character, not only of the structures that we might be remodeling, but its place in history. We have a super unique town in that, it's a very old city. We didn't have a lot of the Civil War destruction that happened with sister cities like Savannah or Charleston. So we have a lot of, really unique old buildings that you might not find in the South.
Character.
Yeah, with character. How do you keep those things together?
So really good question. I'm glad you asked it. The project we just finished, and it's in Midtown. It was a house built in the 50s, but they actually, some of the bricks, I talked to the former or original owner, some of the bricks were brought in from downtown and helped build this property. And what we do in our renovations, we work really hard. I actually drove to Washington, D.C. to get a set of iron gates, replace the old rusted gates that were in the courtyard, and then drove just outside of Raleigh to go get 4 lights that would go in the courtyard that just fit the character of that courtyard. It's a beautiful courtyard on this property. So I go, and again, not everybody does that, but on our renovations, I go to great lengths to find those little things that really help maintain the character. And my design and the folks that I work with on the design side, we work with that sort of a custom design in that we're looking to, some elements we're looking to keep it period specific, and then other elements are more modern. Yeah, but they're modern with like a little bit of a older flair to it. So and what I mean by that is we've got some really specific lighting. The lighting we use in our projects you won't find in Home Depot and Lowe's. I go, to concession stores. I scorch the earth looking for really cool lighting for our projects, and we get complimented on that in our projects quite a bit.
That's great. Yeah, I think one of the things that people fear here, whether they've been here for a long time or a short amount of time, and I know I do when I'm driving around and I just see, acres just clear cut. and then homes just that seem very slapped together.
Sure.
That has an impact. And I also understand it, like everybody should be able to start somewhere. It is the American dream to own a home. It's the path to the middle class. Want everybody to be able to access that, but we got to be able to strike some balance between, having a place that is still very special and has a lot of character, modernizing the properties that do exist out there in a way to where it's like, okay, somebody obviously put some thought into this and really paid attention to detail, cared about the project, and created something that is historically relevant, but that also, contributes to the future growth of this area. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
I like pickers. We'll do it too. We're like, we need a light, but everything we're seeing in retail is not quite right. So let's go see if we can find something really cool for it.
Yeah.
We actually, I found a pallet of bricks. There's a restaurant in town called Johnny Luke's. Yeah. And somehow, some way, I came across this pallet of bricks that was left over from when they built that restaurant. And I was like, can I have those? And they said, yeah, you can have them. So I took the pallet of bricks, and now it's going to become kind of like our mailbox entrance in. So reusing things that are a part of the town, it's just the best. I think it's the absolute best.
And we're very blessed in that we have some great consignment shops, and there are some places that you can go locally. You don't have to go too far. You don't have to go to Washington, D.C. for Gates, but you can find a lot of really vintage stuff locally, just in our area.
Totally. Brian, thanks for joining us. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, they want to talk real estate, they want to talk life, anything, what's the best way to contact you?
Best way is on our website, Coastal Realtors NC. But you can also call us. I'm available generally 24/7. This is a 7-day-a-week job for me.
Yeah.
So I'm at 910-777-5315. And we're all over social media. So
awesome. That's going to do it for part 1 of this episode with Brian Bursell. Stick around because we're going to talk to his wife, Tricia, about all the great community involvement that they do. And until next time, we'll talk to you on the Connect Cape Fear podcast. Thanks for joining us today.